That's absolutely crazy.
Why not have the internal vision of what your ideal self looks like expressed into the outward world?
Let's turn to 17-time WWE champ John Cena, who's getting real about undergoing a hair transplant surgery 9 months ago after a brutal intervention from wrestling fans.
The hair stuff can be really hard for some guys.
You can't just tell the guy that doesn't want to go bald, oh, don't worry about it, bro, just shave your head.
I have been thinking about potentially going to that max level of surgery and getting my 2 bottom ribs broken inwards. I'd like to have a small waist. Not just small. Ideally, I'd like to have a tiny waist.
For him, maybe he doesn't believe that he'll be able to get there by just getting leaner or by just working out. It's going to take somebody cutting into him for that to happen.
All right, so, I don't know if we can directly give props to my brother's girlfriend for this, but she was watching WWE, and she was like, why doesn't John Cena just shave his head? And I was like, I think not everyone has the confidence to just shave their head. I'm sure John's very handsome, look great with a shaved head probably. But I've heard Derek from More Plates, More Dates talk about this in a more sensitive fashion. And he said, you can't just tell the guy that doesn't want to go bald, oh, don't worry about it, bro, just shave your head. It doesn't work that way. Like somebody actually has legitimate concern. They don't know what their life's going to be like now that they don't have hair anymore. And even for someone like John Cena, who's as high up as he is, he was probably getting ridiculed for it, probably hearing the comments and this and that, and it probably didn't feel too great.
Yeah, probably not. We'll definitely let this video play. But hair's a touchy subject, man. It's a touchy subject. I think the video is still on my old YouTube channel where I noticed my hairline starting to recede. I had the camera right here and I was like looking at it, and you know what? I'll send it to you, Ryan. But from that point, it just never grew back the same. Started being a little bit thin right here, and then I just decided,
mid-20s or something?
No, I was like 23.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But my dad's bald. If I actually know, I'll pull up a picture. I'll find a picture of like my whole family. I'll send it to you, Ryan, so we can put it in this podcast. But everyone on my dad's side, his brother's sons, all of us have the same shaped head with the same bald head. It's just genetic. Some people say it's steroids, but it's like, it's my genes. But yeah, when people constantly say shit about your bald head, sometimes it hurts.
Well, especially when you're first going through it, right? Like it's one thing if you showed up at school one day, you're playing soccer and stuff like that, right? In your high school.
Yeah.
And you just have shaved your head. That's different. Maybe a couple guys make fun of you, oh, your head's shiny or whatever, but you decided to shave your head. I think the problem is you don't have a decision anymore. And again, people don't know what it's going to be like for them without hair. And then there's some people that have like an oddly shaped head, and that could be
when I was a kid.
That could be tougher.
When I was a kid, it's not as pronounced now, but my nickname with all of my fucking African friends was Peanut Head because I had a long head in the back. And
yes,
it'd be another thing that would.
Maybe the show should just be about this. Like, you want to talk about this a little bit more?
Mark, I don't know if I'm really ready to. I'm joking.
So many years.
It's believable though, right?
So many years of pain.
But I can make myself cry. Anyway, but seriously, the hair stuff can be really hard for some guys, especially if like that's a big part of their stylistic identity. A lot of guys are worried about what women think about a bald head, and there are some women out there who will not date a man with a bald head. You know what I mean? It's a sign of getting older, it's a sign of age. And but I think this video right here that you mentioned is pretty solid.
Let's check it out.
Because I also want the audience to know that, like, I see your signs, the one that says the bald John Cena, like I get it, but I also know it's something I'm going through. I want to be genuine with that audience, letting me know that, like, hey, either do some work or shave your head. And they pushed me into going to see what my options were. So I ended up getting the transplant in last November. And the crazy thing is, I came back for the retirement tour starting in January.
It's interesting to listen to somebody like John Cena when he speaks. He talked about how, like, rather than saying like this time was hard, because John may choose to use that word for some things, but he's not going to say it when he's talking about him potentially being embarrassed about his hair, him losing his hair, you know? So it's funny because he said it wasn't easy, is what he said instead, which I always think is like admirable when people are selective with their words. I tend to like light up and pay attention to that because I think it's very important to like how you interpret everything and how you feel about everything. But anyway, I think he just in some moment must have shed some light on it and just said, "Oh, well, they're right. I'm actually losing my hair. Mm-hmm. I'm not 19 years old. I'm 47, and I should go and just see what the options are. You know, do I need to get a hair transplant or is there some other option?"
Yeah. I think one of the cool things these days is that, like, if you have the finances, that change doesn't have to be permanent. You know, if I wanted to go to Uzbekistan or Sweden and see if I could pull off a hair transplant, I totally could. But therein lies a risk. Like, I think our buddy Ryan over here was telling us about the subreddit, hair transplant subreddit, where there are a lot of horror stories. You know, I think you just mentioned earlier, Chris Bumstead got a hair transplant. Greg Doucette got a hair transplant. I don't know if Derek got one, but Derek, More Plates, More Dates, has tons of content about people who get hair transplants. And I think Christian Guzman actually posted a video because I think he's been having his hair journey, as he called it.
He had perfect hair for so many years.
But you see, for Christian, his hair was a big part of like the Christian Guzman brand. Mm-hmm. You saw that big wave of jet black hair, perfectly slicked, which went with his style. And then it just starts to thin. You know what I mean? And who knows, some of it, because, you know, Christian's openly talked about some of his PED usage. It could be some of that, but it could also be genetic. Like for me, I sent a picture to Ryan, which he probably put on screen. But my dad's in one of these pictures along with his brother and my cousins in Nigeria. That's not my dad, by the way. That's my uncle, who's my dad's brother. But those are his sons, and that's him. Right? You see the heads. This is my family. And there's a second picture for Ryan to show. The man on the far right is my father. He's in Nigeria. And that's his brother to the left. But you see the heads of many of these men. They're bald. It's just, that's what I was going to have to deal with. And there was a point in time, I got an email from this hair company and they're like, "We'd love to pay you to come down." And I was just like, shit, maybe I could. But then I was like, you know what? Like, this stuff doesn't always go the way it should. You know what I mean? You could get it and you had some freak issue that like messes with you for months and years. And I just need to kind of be okay being bald.
Try to be happy with what you got, right? I mean, it's sucky because like you're like, but I don't want to be bald.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But some people don't want to be short. You know? They just don't, right? And they get surgery. There's surgery now, you know, to help people with that, which sounds wild, but for
rocking
someone
like a baby giraffe for you.
Oh man, that must hurt. It seems like it hurts.
Bone expansion?
I wonder if the hair transplant hurts at all.
For some of these guys, it looks like Ryan. Do you know anything if it hurts? It probably hurts for people because you see it's.
I'm not sure.
You're not sure. Just if you guys are interested, go to the hair transplant subreddit, like Ryan mentioned, because this stuff is not as always as like, you know, Greg Doucette did it successfully, Bumstead did it successfully. But
what is the cause of? Do you guys have any idea? Like I think it has something to do with like DHT, but I don't really remember.
Some of it can be hormonal. Like apparently some men that like have a lot of like high testosterone and other things. Again, this is speaking from a place of just bro science. We can have ChatGPT look it up what Brian's doing. But like, yeah, you can go bald. And that's one of the reasons why I went bald. It's genetic, but it's also a hormonal thing. It was inevitable.
Yeah, I think dihydrotestosterone, DHT, is like is the strongest, most powerful steroid and hormone in the body, even compared to regular testosterone and free testosterone. I think I could be wrong on some of that, but I think it's really powerful. And from what my understanding is, some of the DHT derivatives that somebody may take when it comes to steroids, those are the ones that are more problematic. So like testosterone, it's a little problematic, but I think the other drugs are more problematic. The Tren, the Deca, the this, that, the so on.
Yeah. This is the thing, though. It's like we're going to talk about a lot more things in this episode when it comes to optimizing yourself as a man. But, you know, you'll see on the women's side of things, women will get implants, booty implants, because they want a bigger butt. Why? Not always just for them, but also because guys like big booty, right? They'll get breast implants, sometimes for them, but also because of the optics. And these things aren't free. For some people, it causes a lot of negative issues in terms of their health because they want validation from outside people. They want to feel good when they interact with other people, right? And for men, you know, there's height, getting yourself taller, replacing your hair. I mean, there are guys that go as far as like they get dick inserts to make their dicks bigger. And there are so many negative ramifications of this stuff that's like, you know, if you're a dude, really just consider why are you doing this?
There's some stuff on like maybe one side that might seem like not as bad, and there's some stuff that might seem like more harmful. Oh yeah. I've never looked into the surgery for like being taller or whatever, but that sounds like super invasive.
It is.
That sounds like very, very intense.
They break your bones.
Right? They break your bones. They add other stuff in, and it takes a long time to recover, and it's painful. Some people get things like liposuction. I've heard before that liposuction is very painful. Breast implants, and some of these things that we just kind of take for granted. We just hear people get them, and that's that.
There's a lot of guys who are like, I want my wife to get breast implants. Like they pressure their woman that they're with to get breast implants. You know?
And there's pain associated with it sometimes. I even know someone who unfortunately had their wife die from it. It's, you know, there's going to be, it's surgery, you know, there's surgery going on, and there could be complications. But then there's other stuff that just doesn't seem like that big a deal. Like Botox is like, you know, insanely popular, but you are injecting like this weird poison thing into your body, right? There's like Invisalign, which Invisalign just, you know, helps kind of if you have a space between your teeth or your just teeth aren't aligned well. But it is you like fighting against the way that your body sort of naturally is.
Yeah.
It is you trying to like optimize or to try to maybe just go a different route with your body. And who knows what the ramifications of these things are. Moving your teeth around, you know, might negatively impact your bite. Yeah. Might negatively impact your airway, perhaps, potentially. Like, I don't even know.
Yo.
Bless you.
My gosh. Ryan, there's a video I want you to play. And Mark, you just reminded me of this, and I think this kind of tails perfectly into this conversation. You'll see it on Instagram. I'm gonna let the man speak for himself.
Bodybuilding, and I have an aesthetic vision for my physique. A huge limiting factor of mine was that like I just had love handles, and when they weren't filled with fat anymore, they were filled with water, and then they just looked like shit all the time. And I was like, fuck this, I can just get them cut out. So I did. I will be going through surgery again, probably at least a few more times.
Why?
One is I have some loose skin and extra fat cells around my lower chest area, some cases around my back, and actually just out of sheer genetics in my tie-in between my biceps, triceps, and shoulders, like right this area. And those can actually be kind of furrowed out with surgery. I do have hypothetical, probable plans for a very ambitious surgery. No matter what body fat I have a big gut, just plain old. And it's really just a genetic laxity of the abdominal wall. It has nothing to do with muscle strength and none of that shit. And so you can plicate the obliques, you can plicate the rectus abdominis, and it brings your waist in. And just in case you were ever going to blow that out, you get a polymer sheath installed around your entire, like a corset sheath. And then it constantly keeps your waist to the size that most people of my leanness have. I have been thinking about potentially going to that next level of surgery and getting my two bottom ribs broken inwards to have an even cooler, even smaller waist. Ideally, I'd like to have a tiny waist. I think it's magical.
I think the most alarming part of the whole thing is not so much the surgeries and all the different things that he mentioned. To me, it was when he said other people that are of his leanness look leaner. And to me, that's like, I appreciate Dr. Mike. He's a friend of mine. We got two Dr. Mikes here on the screen, but Dr. Mike Israetel. But that's like the one area where I'm like, that really hurts. That really sucks. That sucks that. Now, we're all in comparison to each other. We all do it all the time. But to what level? You know, to what degree? And it sounds like he's taken it pretty far. But also, he's a very smart guy. He must have worked a lot of this out in his head, and he's thinking like this is it's not necessarily the way for him to get ahead. It's the way for him to feel maybe the best about himself. And that might be unfortunate that he has to go through that many things, but a lot of people are going through a lot of things. They're weighing their food, they're weighing themselves, they're checking themselves in the mirror, they're going to tanning beds, they're doing X, Y, Z. So it's easy to throw shade at that because that sounds new or different or wild. But maybe to somebody else, laying out in the sun for an hour every day to try to get tan during the summer, maybe that sounds a little crazy to them.
All right, Mark, you're getting leaner and leaner, but you always enjoy the food you're eating. So how you doing it?
I got a secret, man. It's called Good Life Protein.
Okay, tell me about that.
I've been doing some Good Life Protein. We've been talking on the show for a really long time of certified Piedmontese beef, and you can get that under the umbrella of Good Life Proteins, which also has chicken breast, chicken thighs, sausage, shrimp, scallops, all kinds of different fish, salmon, tilapia. The website has nearly any kind of meat that you can think of. Lamb is another one that comes to mind. And so I've been utilizing and kind of using some different strategy, kind of depending on the way that I'm eating. So if I'm doing a keto diet, I'll eat more fat, and that's where I might get the sausage, and I might get their 80-20 grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef. I might get bacon. And there's other days where I kind of do a little bit more bodybuilder style, where the fat is, might be like 40 grams or something like that. And then I'll have some of the leaner cuts of the certified Piedmontese beef.
This is one of the reasons why neither of us find it hard to stay in shape, because we're always enjoying the food we're eating. And protein, you talk about protein, leverage it all the time. It's satiating and helps you feel full.
I look forward to every meal. And I can surf and turf,
Yeah.
I could cook up some, chicken thighs or something like that and have some shrimp with it, or I could have some steak. I would say, the steak, it keeps going back and forth for me on my favorites. So it's hard for me to lock one down, but I really love the bavette steaks.
Yeah.
And then I also love the ribeyes as well.
You can't go wrong with the ribeyes. So guys, if you guys want to get your hands on some really good meat, you can head to goodlifeproteins.com and use code POWER for 20% off any purchases made on the website, or you can use code POWERPROJECT to get an extra 5% off if you subscribe and save to any meats that are a recurring purchase.
This is the best meat in the world.
Yeah, I think the clip from Dr. Israetel is interesting because Mike is he's working on a book. It's called The Aesthetic Revolution. And Mike, I think, is he is an opportunity maximalist. I just spat that out right now. I don't know if it makes sense, but what I'm trying to get at is this. I think it's his belief, and this is just truth. If you have this vision of what you want to look like, and you have the money for it in some senses, and you have the ability to attain potentially the drugs for it, why not? Why not have the internal vision of what your ideal self looks like? Why not have that expressed into the outward world? This is why a lot of people they use performance enhancing drugs, because there's a certain look and aesthetic, as he is in his book, The Aesthetic Revolution. So there's a certain aesthetic that they're looking for that without potential PEDs or even cosmetic surgeries, they're not going to be able to achieve. But for him, there's no reason he shouldn't be able to do that. And I agree, for all the things that he wants to do, to me, that sounds fucking wild. But the thing is it's he has this vision of the very tiny waist, of no water in those areas. And probably for him, maybe he doesn't believe that he'll be able to get there by just getting leaner or by just working out. It's going to take somebody cutting into him for that to happen. So we have to understand, though, that this isn't necessarily purely for the vision and in the idea of being healthier. Potentially being somewhat mentally healthier, although that can be argued. I mean, it could be argued, is this mentally a healthy thing to go this far for your aesthetic ideal? But for some people, it can potentially be something that gets rid of anxieties they have around the way they look, because they're one of the lucky ones who have gone through all of these different surgeries, potential drugs, etc., and have achieved the look that they'd like the world to see. And now they feel like they are able to show the person they are in their head to the outward world, right? But it's it's really, it's tough. It's like,
It's very tough in a lot of ways, because I think just in this world in general, you're like, you do try to fit in. You are trying to be like enough, you know? And sometimes you need someone to like just stop you for a second and say, hey man, like you got it going on. Like your shit's good.
I mean, and so
like you're
many
doing
people
great.
will
Yeah.
look at him and be like, dog, you're fucking jacked. You're strong. It's like,
You're rich.
you're rich.
You're a doctor.
You're wealthy. You're a doctor, right? Like, but in his
And
mind,
he like this is back. This back is huge.
right. But
Yeah.
these slight imperfections,
Right.
and he has the ability to, like, he's also very big on, there's a new class of drugs that you guys will just have to go to Mike's channel to find out, but there are these new class of steroids that will potentially have way less side effects than current steroids.
These are the ones you've been on.
You bastard.
I nailed that.
You
I nailed that.
bastard. But they have like, they're going to have minimal side effects. They're in testing. I think one of them is called Trevor something. Like they're named after, I think, the guys who came up with it or something.
Coach Trevor.
Coach Trevor, right? But they'll help you like put on muscle with minimal body fat. It's just, they're less.
They're like myostatin inhibitors maybe or something like that. Yeah.
So go to Mike's channel. He can explain the whole science of it. But, you know, I think he said in his book, he's going to be talking about these upcoming drugs. But the thing that like really worries me when it comes to these things is, I get it. It's a free country. You should be able to do whatever you want, especially if you have the means and the money to change yourself. But there's so many unknowns, man. Like we don't know what that might be causing for 10 years, 20, 30 years down the road. And many people, especially younger people, they don't think about the future because it's like, fuck yeah, I can look the way I want right now. I don't really care about myself when I'm 50 or 60. But then when you get there, are you sure that's going to be the case?
It's hard not to let things like slip. You know, it's easy just to be like, oh, I'm just going to have this. You know, it's very difficult to, I guess, try to be like reasonable with yourself. It's very hard to be truthful with yourself. Oh, I'm just going to have this little bit of caffeine. Like it's not really a big deal. I haven't had coffee in a while, so I'm going to have, you know, one today.
Just had a little bit today.
You know, yeah. I didn't sleep much last night, so I'm gonna have some kratom. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like it's just, and then it's like you just keep kind of moving the line back, you know, a little bit each time, or moving it back, back further away, and then you're just allowing more stuff to come in. You're like, okay, well, you know, creatine is this, and I've already been on all these supplements. I've tried a lot of these. These are cool. This is nice, you know, and I'm getting a good physique from this. But I wonder, you know what I mean? I wonder. And then you're like, well, maybe I'll just start out with a normal stack, right? And that's where people start when they start with performance enhancing drugs. They start out with normal stuff, maybe testosterone, maybe some DECA, but then the curiosity builds from there. You're like, oh, this is pretty cool, but I wonder what. And that's how it happens. And it just, it goes further and further. And again, I think it could sound crazy to one person, and it can sound, maybe it's a little bit more rational for another person, because they might be like, I kind of feel that way too. I feel that way about my height. I feel that way about my weight. I feel that way about my eyes. I feel that way about my whatever. Like we all have stuff. I have a friend, he just had like his eyes were like a little bit bigger, and he got made fun of all the time for just having, you know, bug eyes. And on top of that, he wore glasses. So it was just like amplified, you know.
Our kids are fucking vicious.
And it just drove him crazy. Like, but that was like his life. His life was like tied up into that. Obviously he got older. He did fine, and he's successful and all that kind of stuff. But that like tormented him. That was his, and each person has their own shit they got to try to figure out and deal with. It doesn't matter how good someone looks either. Just because somebody looks good doesn't mean they have their shit together. Their problems are still similar to yours. They face a lot of the same things, and you'd be shocked at how many people look amazing, but they're like, yeah, I could be a little, you know, I could do that. They're always like tacking on a couple of extra things. And of course, we all want to look better. We all want to be better. We all strive for these things all the time.
Yeah.
And I guess you kind of run into the thing is like, what's the healthy level or version of that?
Yeah. I think that's what I think for okay, you know, I can only speak for myself, but if I were giving advice to anybody, that would be the advice I would give them. If someone asked me, Because like, you know, some people are listening. It's like, motherfucker, I didn't ask you. I don't give a fuck. Right. But if one asked me, I'd be like, let's make every decision with the goal of our health being paramount, with the goal of our longevity being paramount. Because I would assume that whatever it is you're doing, you ideally want to be here for a long time. I want to be here for a long time. I want to be here until old age. So I'm very, very careful with the decisions I make, the things I choose to take, supplements, etc. Because I mean, that's one of the reasons that have scared me in terms of PEDs, because you don't know what happens 10 years down the road with that. And if I can just try to be consistent with the things that I'm doing, it just gives me a higher chance to potentially live a longer life. Right? Because I've seen a lot of people that have had side effects, that have had just a lot of issues, and I don't want to deal with that. So when thinking about any of this, like, you know, with what Mike's talking about here, you know, he talks about some of these muscle building drugs, and chances are he's probably going to use them. But I would tell somebody, don't mess with that yet. If I were to give advice to anybody, I'd be like, don't mess with that for the next 10, 20 years. Obviously, whoever's going to listen is going to listen to that. But it's one of those things where I think there have been some, and again, you like Ozempic is very popular. Those types of drugs are popular, but there are now some even more things that are starting to happen with people who have been using it for a long term. And it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not saying people shouldn't take Ozempic, because like you go in understanding that there are risks, but it's one of those things to wonder, like, what's the minimal effective dose you could use to get to your goals, to help speed things up? Or are you somebody who really does need it? Could you potentially make lifestyle changes and get to that goal without this intervention that could pose potential risks? Because some people use it unscathed, but some people have gut issues, all these types of issues for long periods of time because they chose to use it. So it's like health should be the paramount thing here. I think there's a video from Sal Stefano that is really good on this topic.
On hormone replacement therapy, I've been on that for a while. Now that was necessary. I got my testosterone checked a few years ago, and it was really low, and it probably due to the fact that I abused anabolic steroids in my 20s, and so I think that played a role. I've seen some studies saying that if you do that in your youth, you're likely to have some issues once you get to your 40s, which is kind of what happened to me. So it's like, again, it's legit, right? I needed it, but opened Pandora's box with me, right? So I take testosterone, and then going down the quote unquote hormone optimization route that leads to, well, you know, I'm 46, let's optimize growth hormone, and then let's optimize thyroid. So I'm optimized on all those things, but really what I do is I push the limits. I go as far as they'll allow me to go. And I get blood work and all that stuff. Again, this is how I can fool myself, right? Healthy, blood work looks good. But the heart posture around it is not for health. The heart posture around it is for seeing how far I can go. Really what it is, this is what's interesting, is when I was a kid, a lot of this was rooted in body dysmorphia, but it's not that anymore, which is interesting. It's not really body dysmorphia anymore. It's really about feeling capable.
That's, I think Sal, he's talking about a lot of stuff. He's going to be talking about Jesus too, and depending on God. But I think that's a great example of, like, you know, he did do those things in his 20s. And some people do those things without any type of problems as they get older. There are some, but not everybody comes out of that unscathed.
Right.
You know what I mean? So Mark, you have been loving wearing these Peluvas for a long time. Why is it that you like these shoes that look like this?
I'm trying to get my feet to be jacked. You know, I think it's funny how sometimes people will, when I wear these shoes, they're like, oh, those are different. And I'm like, well, maybe you should blame God, because this is the human foot. This is the way that it looks. But Peluvas are awesome because it's going to allow you to train your feet and train your toes and allow for that toe spread, because you got the 5-finger toe thing going on. It's like put on a glove for your feet. It feels amazing.
It's like walking around with toe spacers. You know, we've been working on our feet for a long time now. You always hear the benefit of people talking about, like, these tribes who have gone without shoes forever, and they have this toe space and have these amazing feet. And these shoes will allow you to just passively get that back by walking around.
You don't realize what a disadvantage you're at when your foot is all clumped together from the football cleats or soccer cleats or whatever else you were wearing when you were young. And so it's nice to be able to splay your toes In addition to that, though, one thing I love about Peluva is the fact that it's not a regular barefoot shoe. I do love barefoot shoes as well, but it also has appropriate padding. And when you're stepping on some crazy pebbles and rocks and different things, like when I'm out on a run, some terrain is a little different than others. I don't have to be worried that I'm going to get some sort of stabbing, crazy thing happening to my foot because it has an appropriate amount of cushion underneath the foot.
And guys, Peluva has a lot of different styles on their website. I think one of the newest styles they just came out with, which is a little bit more of a rigorous shoe, is the Strand ATR. It's not these are the Strands, but the ATRs have a little bit more. If you want to go hiking with them, you totally can.
Those are amazing. If you go out, throw those on and go sprint on a field, and your feet feel so strong, grabbing the grass and being able to actually grab the ground with your foot feels amazing.
I'm more of a chill guy with my Peluva, so I like the Zen slip-ons, but that's the thing. With Peluva, there's a lot of different options. So if you head to peluva.com and use code POWERPROJECT, you'll be able to save 15% off your entire purchase. And they also have toe socks. Their 5-finger toe socks are no show, so check those out too.
Yeah, he also mentioned like that he needed it, and I think he was, I think he knows that maybe he doesn't know, and maybe he doesn't know that he necessarily needed it.
What do you mean?
Like that's just a powerful word to use. Need it. Like I needed it. He wasn't gonna die.
Yeah.
I mean, unless there's some sort of medical thing that I'm unaware of, but low testosterone can have some really negative impacts with someone's mental health. So if he was having any sort of mental health issues or anything like that, then ultimately that could obviously destroy you. But just having some low T, yeah, there's some studies like that show that it could be having correct amounts of testosterone can be like protective of your health, protective of your heart, protective of a bunch of other things. Having too high a testosterone can be a negative for your heart and negative for a lot of other things, and having too low. But I think the term needed it is like an interesting one. And that's like, I could say that for myself, but I don't need them. I don't actually need steroids. I like taking them, and I've been taking them for a long time. So it seems like I need them because I've been relying on them so long. And if I remove them, yeah, it would take me a while to have my physique, come back to something that I'm, I guess, excited about, you would say. But like I would probably lose like 10 or 15 pounds. It'd probably happen fairly quickly. But there's no emergency. Even if I did stop them, I wouldn't necessarily like need them. I wouldn't have to like rush out and like quick inject some testosterone. Like it wouldn't be anything.
Gains are melting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wouldn't be anything like that. I mean, all it would be, I'd just be downsized from where I'm at.
Yeah. Now let's move to 351 of this video, I think it is. Yeah.
Push it. I push the limits with that. At times I'll use nandrolone prescription for my joints. By the way, all these things have benefits. And again, I get my blood work done and it's all whatever. But that's the root of it isn't right. Peptides are the other thing. Peptides have great applications. I mean, they're I think great medical interventions for lots of different reasons. Better than pharmaceuticals in many cases. But that's not my heart posture on peptides. With peptides, it's also, let's see what I can get away with, what I can push. So peptide-wise, and then to make it even more ridiculous or silly, I have access to all the peptides because of our partners. So they send me whatever I want. It's like an alcoholic getting free drinks all the time. Hey, you guys,
All right. If any of you guys are interested, I think Sal, he has a whole series going on talking about a lot of this stuff. It's good to check out because it may cause a lot of like self-reflection on your own habits. In the end of the video, he talked about like how his wife was asking him one night, they were in bed, and he would use kratom just to enhance his mood, and she was like, "Do you using it?" And he lied about it, and he felt really bad about it. And it's not me saying it's bad, but it's one of those things where it's like you don't want to even get to a point where you're with someone, you're hiding the fact that you're using something from someone. It's like it's hard, you know what I mean? And everyone has their decisions to make. But I think what he was talking about here in terms of being real about your reasoning for the things that you're doing. Is it in search of optimization? Just because we've had a lot of, we're always going to have people onto the show that we bring on to talk about certain things, methylene blue for optimizing certain aspects of performance. And we've had people that have come on and talked about peptides. We've had people that have come on and talked about TRT. And for many people, these things are actually truly optimizing and truly helping. But you got to be real with yourself, and how far are you taking it and why? Like, are you taking it too far? Is this going to actually be okay if you take it too far? Or are you making excuses for yourself so that you can reach this, whether it's reach a certain amount of muscle, reach a certain physique in a certain amount of time? You definitely see it in a lot of younger guys, right? Younger guys, like we're talking about mental health right now, right? And it's just, it is difficult for guys in their 20s, late teens, being in this time of the world where you're constantly comparing yourself to the physiques of all these other guys, some who are enhanced and some who are just been training for a long time. And you want that right now. And you see that some people are using TRT. You see that some people are using steroids, and some of them get out unscathed. But then you make a decision, a quick decision that could cost you issues. There's another creator, his name is Shali Coker. He's the owner of Inaka Power, INAKA. You know, he's one of Christian Guzman's friends. They did a lot of stuff with Alpha Elite before Shali started his own company, and he recently put out a video talking about how he was using PEDs when he was in his younger bodybuilding days. But now he's having, because he didn't do certain things as far as like his post-cycle therapy, etc., he made a YouTube video talking about like how he's a bit infertile right now. And he's working on trying to get his fertility back because he just got married and he wants to have kids. So it's like, the thing is, you know, using those drugs at that time definitely sped up his career, had him gain the physique that he wanted to be able to build aspects of his business. But there is a give and a take, and these things aren't always free. And you got to be real with yourself in terms of what you could be sacrificing if you go down that route.
You're always stealing from tomorrow, you know, with any drug that you do. You know, pick any drug that you can think of. You're always kind of, and sometimes there's pharmaceutical drugs, or there's certain drugs that someone literally may need because they're going through a particular issue at the moment, and they need that medical intervention of that pharmaceutical. There are cases like that, but I think ultimately, what people need to recognize, if you take drugs of any kind, whether it's alcohol, I would say, like, let's not even worry about caffeine. Okay, let's not worry. Who cares about caffeine? But if you consume alcohol, kratom, steroids, cocaine, heroin, whatever, right? In my head, the way it works out, the best way to do it is to just lump everyone in together and just say, I'm a drug addict. Like, it's easier that way for me because that's the truth of it. Well, I was listening to a podcast not too long ago, and these guys are running down the list. It was like Vigor Steve and a couple other guys, and they're talking about like all this shit that they're on. And they started naming like 4, 5, 6, 7 things. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, these guys are fucking drug addicts. And I was like, wait a second. That's me too, though. That's me too. I'm not doing the same thing, the same amount or whatever, but that I need to be honest with myself. That's the truth of it. So if people that take steroids that feel like they need them and feel like they're not going to come off of them, you're a drug addict. And it's just easier for you to you may as well just admit it. It doesn't have to be a bad term, but you are addicted to a drug. And I think it's best to just come to terms with it. Because how are you going to ever deal with it if you don't ever, like, you have to come to terms with stuff in order to be able to deal with it, in order to be able to communicate about it. And, you know, lying to your significant other, like, that's a big deal. These are all, like, when you go to AA, these are all the things they talk about. Like, have you ever lied? Have you ever been late to work? Have you ever been, you know, these are all things that are true of a drug addict. And just because it doesn't look like heroin or cocaine or some of these other drugs. Yeah, because it has like maybe a particular
positive outcome.
A particular positive outcome, yeah.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of negatives to it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But, you know, that's why it's one of those reasons, like, we started this conversation talking about balding, right? And it's like you kind of sometimes it's probably good to ask yourself, like, I really thought about it. I was like, I could just go to Uzbekistan and I could get that done, magically come back with a full on afro, could get cornrows if I wanted them. I could do styles, like all the hair would be back, right? That'd be kind of sick. But at the same time, things could go really south. I could have a lot of issues. Guys get like certain joint issues with things that happen. Like it could go really wrong. And then it's like, you know what? I just got to be comfortable with this head for the rest of my life. That's okay. Like, I'm healthy, right? I can go through life without complications, right? I can work on the things to me that actually matter, which isn't actually my hair. It's the way my body feels, learning new things about health and sharing that with other people. And I can improve at that over a period of time. You know, maybe I can just focus on that and not worry about what people think about the bald head. Right. Of course, things can get deeper if you feel fully not at home in the body that you're in and you want to do things fast. But the thing is, it's like, this is a long project. This body of ours and the abilities we have, whether it's like physically or mentally, these are things that we're going to be ideally trying to work on forever. And it's like, if you can expand your time horizons for some of those goals, maybe you don't have to make a very swift decision in terms of a drug that you might be able to get out of using it unscathed, or it might cause you vast amounts of discomfort for a long period of time. Like it really makes me think, like Mike mentioning wanting to get his ribs broken.
Yeah.
Like, again, you're free to have the aesthetic look that you want, especially if you have the ability and the money and to implant things. And, you know, when you hear Mike talk about these things, it's like, you ever heard, you know, the video game Cyberpunk 2077?
I've never seen that.
Okay. It's this futuristic game where like people get like bionic arms and you can implant things. And like, it's just, Mike Israetel seems like he'd be very at home in that world. You know what I mean? But it's like at the cost of what potentially, you know, you don't know what breaking your ribs is going to cause for the rest of your body. It will make you look a certain way. But then when it comes to, I think what I try to get people to focus on is like the way you move through space and the way you feel in your body while interacting with the world, that might get totally messed up in the search of just the visual look.
Right.
You know? So anyway, just ask yourself why you want to do the things you do and really think about it before you pull the trigger.
The way that I use methylene blue is very similar to the way that you're using it. I don't use it every day. I think things that push that button to change your mood, you might want to be a little cautious with it. In my opinion, and the feelings that I get from methylene blue, it does change my mood a little bit. It's a mood enhancer. When I go out and run, I feel like I do have a little bit more endurance. I do feel like I can breathe a little bit better, but that could also be, I've been training very hard as well, so it could be an adaptation to that as well. But as we've had, you know, David Herrera and many other people have come on the show before, they basically just say methylene blue is a electron donor and it allows the body to utilize energy just more efficiently. And I don't know if I can feel that per se, but I know that I feel better when I'm running, when I'm using methylene blue.
Yeah, post sessions of grappling, that's when I usually use. I use it 2 or 3 times a week. Post sessions of jiu-jitsu, I always feel like I have more energy, like much more energy than I typically have, which makes me understand that, you know, if I did want to go for longer sessions, I could, but it also helps me understand that I'm going to be recovering better for my next session the next day, which is a big deal. But yeah, I think that if you guys, first off, this stuff is great because it's third-party tested. Methylene blue, in other sources like the stuff that you'll see on Amazon or like random websites, there's no regulation. So a lot of people have levels of toxicity from the supplement because it's not dosed correctly. And there are other things in that methylene blue. Again, this is something that is lab made. It's not you know what I mean? So you got to be careful. And this is why we like using this stuff, because we know it's not going to mess us up.
You can go on their website. You can go on the Transcriptions website and you can get a report of the third-party tested methylene blue and double, triple check it for yourself. In addition to that, they have the Canatine, which I have not used that much, but when I have used it pre-workout, I did notice I get a zip from it. I think it has nicotine in it, along with a couple other things to go along with the methylene blue. So do yourselves a favor, check out Transcriptions, check out what they got. Strength is never weakness, weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Optimizing, and optimizing for who, for what, and for like, I guess who's determining what's optimal?
Yes.
Because I don't even really think anybody knows. You know, we do hear a lot of information that like, oh, you know, hundreds of years ago we had higher testosterone levels, or you know, you hear all these different things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the most optimal thing. And also, I realize in today's modern era, it becomes more difficult. You got like pesticides, and you have microplastics, and people aren't outside as much, and there's so many different things to think about. But again, you thinking that you need something to be more optimal, I don't think is a great way to look at it. I think it maybe, I guess I can look at it in a way of saying like maybe you want to feel a little bit better, so you want to take like a little bit of, you know, TRT to like testosterone, for as evil of an agent as it's been deemed. It's been proven to be relatively safe if you only take testosterone and you take it in like minor amounts, but it's very hard for people just to do that. They're going to want to always take more.
You notice some benefit, you notice a bit of gains, you're like, more.
Right. And then your optimal testosterone levels, again, like, I don't know. I don't think I hear a lot of people talk about optimization being like 1,000, 1,200. It's like that. I don't know. It seems like kind of a lot. And it also seems like, seems inconvenient, you know, to have your testosterone levels, to have you be, because your libido goes with that, you know, your horniness goes with that. And if your mate, if your significant other isn't like in tune with all that, that's not the greatest place for you to be.
Yeah.
For you to have all that energy bound up, so to speak.
And it goes back to what you said, optimal for who? Because, you know, we've had Eugene Teo on the show who shared his testosterone, and I think his free was at like, you know, 400 or something like that, right? Or whichever number is the bigger. I'm not sure if it's total or free, but whichever that was, it was at like 400. Eugene's jacked. He builds muscle. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there are many people who their testosterone
Sean Baker is pretty low,
right? Not through the roof, but you know, they're able to, by being consistent over a lot of years. And some people will say, oh, it's just their genetics, but it's like one of those things where you do something for a long period of time. You don't need 900, 1,000, 1,200 testosterone. But, you know, we have a tendency of, you look at the most muscular people in the space, and the most muscular people are using testosterone, and their testosterone is in 1,000 something. You're like, that's what I need if I want to have that body. If I want to build muscle, I need 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 testosterone. It's like, I don't know about that. Right?
Rogan's always trying to recruit people to get them on testosterone.
Yeah.
When they ask people on the show, he's like, well, why not? Why aren't you on some testosterone?
What is it that they've called it? It's the hormone of, is it the hormone of more, or it's the hormone of motivation?
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds, yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm not saying people shouldn't get testosterone. That's not what I'm saying. But like, if you do, like, it's probably in your best interest to be somewhat reasonable with the amount that what you get yourself to. Be honest about it. But it's tough.
Yeah, this topic is just screwed up in general. I mean, you have all the people of Hollywood over the years, you know, different things to their face and different things to this and different things to that. I think it's just easy, again, like to fall into the trap of like, oh, you're going to get that done. Why don't you just get this done too? Yeah. And you say, oh, well, what's that? And they go, oh, we're just going to do that. And it's going to be simple, painless.
Put some fat out here, put it there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be great. Your face is going to look better. Your ass is going to look better. And you're like, all right, well, I'll go for that. Why not?
Yep,
right.
Yep.
So I think that's how you end up in those spots. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.